Have you ever wondered what happens to a person after spending 10 years living completely alone? Most people assume loneliness, sadness, and silence, but for one 82-year-old man, those quiet years revealed something most people never discover in their entire lives. A truth about happiness, a truth about peace, and a truth about what actually matters. Today, we're going to explore 6 powerful life lessons he discovered after a decade of living by himself. These lessons aren't theories. They're real insights that can change the way you see aging, independence, and even your daily life. And by the end of this video, you may realize that the thing many people fear the most, being alone, can sometimes become one of life's greatest teachers. In modern society, we're constantly surrounded by noise, notifications, deadlines, conversations, expectations. But when life slows down and the house becomes quiet, something interesting begins to happen. You start hearing something you may have ignored for years, your own thoughts. For many people, that silence feels uncomfortable, but for others, it becomes a doorway to clarity. Over the past 10 years, one elderly man discovered that solitude didn't take life away from him. In many ways, it gave life back to him. Here are the 6 lessons he learned along the way. Routine creates self-respect. When you live alone, no one reminds you to take care of yourself. No one tells you to wake up, prepare a meal, or go outside, and that's why routines become incredibly important. One retired gentleman named David begins every morning the same way. He wakes up at 7 a.m., opens the curtains, makes a cup of coffee, and spends a few minutes watching the morning light come through the window. It may sound simple, but those small habits create structure, and structure creates dignity. Psychologists often point out that routines can help people maintain a sense of control and stability, especially during major life transitions like retirement or living alone. It's not about strict schedules. It's about reminding yourself that your time still matters. Letting go is emotional freedom. When life becomes quiet, memories often become louder. Old regrets, past arguments, decisions we wish we had made differently. Living alone can sometimes bring those thoughts to the surface. But over time, many people discover something important. Holding on to resentment doesn't change the past. It only affects the present. One woman in her 70s shared that after years of tension with a family member, she eventually realized that forgiveness wasn't about saying someone else was right. It was about releasing the emotional weight she had been carrying. Mental health experts often emphasize that letting go of long-held anger can improve emotional well-being. And sometimes peace comes not from fixing the past, but from choosing to move forward, the beauty of ordinary moments. Something surprising happens when life slows down. You begin to notice things most people rush past. The warmth of sunlight through a window, the smell of fresh rain, the sound of birds in the morning. One retired engineer who once worked 60-hour weeks said that after living alone for several years, he finally noticed how beautiful simple moments could be. Not because the world changed, but because his attention did. Mindfulness researchers often describe this as being present in the moment. And studies suggest that paying attention to everyday experiences can reduce stress and improve overall life satisfaction. Sometimes happiness isn't hidden in big achievements. Sometimes it's quietly waiting in the ordinary.
Your inner voice matters. When you spend time alone, your inner dialogue becomes very important. For some people, that voice can be critical. But over time, many people learn to speak to themselves with the same kindness they would offer a friend. A woman who began living alone in her 60s once said something powerful. At first I felt lonely, but eventually I realized I was actually pretty good company.
That shift in mindset can be life-changing, because the relationship you have with yourself is the one relationship that stays with you every single day. Developing self-compassion doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and that growth is always possible. And when your inner voice becomes supportive rather than critical, solitude becomes much easier to embrace. Small connections matter more than you think. Living alone doesn't mean living without connection. In fact, many people discover that small interactions become incredibly meaningful. A short conversation with a neighbor, a friendly greeting at the grocery store, a quick phone call with a family member. These moments may seem minor, but they remind us that we're still part of a community. Research consistently shows that even brief positive social interactions can improve mood and strengthen our sense of belonging. You don't need hundreds of friends. Sometimes just a few genuine connections are enough. Kindness has a way of spreading further than we realize, realizing what enough means. Perhaps the most important lesson of all is learning the value of enough. In a culture that constantly encourages people to chase more success, more money, more achievements, it can be easy to forget that contentment is also a form of wealth. After years of living alone, many older adults say they begin to appreciate the things they once overlooked. A quiet home, a good book, a peaceful evening. Contentment doesn't mean giving up on goals. It simply means recognizing that fulfillment doesn't always come from acquiring more things. Sometimes it comes from appreciating what's already here, the freedom of letting go of expectations. One of the quiet realizations that often comes with age is that many of the pressures we carry throughout life were never truly necessary. For decades, people worry about meeting expectations, being successful enough, productive enough, impressive enough. But after years of living alone, many people begin to question those invisible standards. An 83-year-old retired teacher once explained it this way: "For most of my life, I thought I had to prove something to the world, but eventually I realized the world wasn't keeping score the way I imagined." That realization can be incredibly freeing. You stop comparing your life to others. You stop measuring yourself against unrealistic standards. Instead, you begin living in a way that feels authentic to you. Psychologists often note that releasing constant social comparison can improve emotional well-being and reduce unnecessary stress. In other words, peace often arrives the moment you stop trying to live someone else's version of success. Your story still has value. Another powerful discovery many older adults make is that their experiences matter more than they once believed. After decades of work, family responsibilities, and personal struggles, you accumulate something incredibly valuable: perspective. Many seniors worry that society no longer needs their voice, but the truth is that wisdom often becomes more meaningful with time. A grandfather who lives alone in a small town said something that stuck with everyone who heard it. "Young people have speed, but older people have maps. That map comes from experience, from mistakes, from lessons learned the hard way." Sharing those stories, whether with family members, neighbors, or even through writing, can create a deep sense of purpose. It reminds us that life is not only about what we accomplish, it is also about what we pass forward. Peace comes from accepting life's imperfections. Perhaps the final lesson discovered after years of solitude is that life was never meant to be perfect. When we are younger, we often imagine that happiness will arrive once everything is finally in place: the right career, the perfect home, the perfect plan. But real life rarely unfolds that way. Unexpected changes happen. Plans shift. People come and go. And yet, many older adults discover something surprising. Peace doesn't come from controlling every outcome. It comes from accepting that life is naturally unpredictable. One 80-year-old man once shared a simple insight during an interview. "I spent years trying to fix everything. Eventually, I realized life wasn't broken." That mindset can transform how we experience each day. Instead of resisting life's imperfections, we begin to work with them. We adapt. We grow. And sometimes we even find beauty in the unexpected. So when you bring all 9 lessons together, a powerful picture begins to emerge. A meaningful life isn't built from grand achievements alone. It grows through small daily habits, through emotional freedom, through appreciating simple moments, through kindness, reflection, and connection. And perhaps most importantly, through the understanding that you are already living a life that deserves attention and gratitude. Because in the end, fulfillment isn't about how loud your life looks from the outside. Sometimes it's about the quiet peace you feel within. Before you go, I'd love to ask you a question. Which of these lessons resonated with you the most? Was it the power of routine, letting go of the past, or learning to appreciate the simple moments? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is watching this video today. And if you enjoy thoughtful conversations about life, wisdom, and personal growth, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the greatest lessons in life arrive during the quietest chapters.